So actually, in City of Demons, I'm a voice of the little monsters as well. So I got to have a bit of fun with that. But no, those guys really are so talented to do that, and it's such a specific technique, which is different from being a physical actor.
They're also really dirty, these guys. They know instinctively when they're done recording, when the guys in the booth are done. And they'll give you 3 or 4 line readings, and then they'll give you an improvised one. And then they'll just give you their favorite filthy version of the scene. And they just know this, but it keeps it really light. It keeps everybody on their toes. But it's really a great gig. I mean, you can show up in your underwear.
Yeah.
You don't have to, you don't even need hair product.
It's great. One of the disappointing things about doing Assassin's Creed Black Flag is I never got to wear the costume. Because I'm just in a black lycra suit with dots all over me, and I see some people, dressing up sometimes as Edward Kenway, and I'm like, it's such a cool costume, I would have loved to have worn it, but yeah, no, it's great. You can just roll up and you put the suit on and you're ready to go, It's great.
Let's talk about the makeup process that you had to go through for the Freddy Krueger role. The makeup process.
Well, David Miller invented it, along with a lot of help from Robert Shea and Wes Craven. And they were nervous about it. To this day, I still think down deep in my heart that I may have got the role just because I have a really thin face. And Wes and Bob had been warned so much about the makeup looking artificial and bad, and they had been worried about it, that they may have just realized that with my shoulders and my thin face, that by applying prosthetics, I come out kind of normal. I don't know if you've seen, in a lot of effects, the heads all look too big to me. I can tell sometimes when there's too much makeup and the head looks too big for the body, it looks out of proportion. And I think they were worried about that with Freddy. But there was a point when I convinced them, an improv I had with a hat, where I said I wanted to reveal the baldness of Freddy, that I thought that would be something strong. And I think that kind of, I got them interested in playing with that. But in the last second, I had to fight for the hat. And I remember it was upstairs at the old Desilu Studios, and Bob and Wes were sitting on this urine-stained futon on the floor with a box from Western Costume full of caps. And like the first one they tried on me was like the Paperboy cap. And I could just see myself going, here, read all about it, Springwood Slasher. I felt like, some idiot from Newsies, a chorus boy run amok. So I fought for the fedora, which was Wes's original description in the original script. But he'd lost faith, and they were afraid. And I said, no, look, I can hide behind it. I can hide my eyes from the light. I can tilt. Who knows what evil lurks, in the heart of men, the shadow knows. I could understand that dipped lid strategically below one eye, as Carly Simon sang about Warren Beatty. And I knew I could exploit the hat. Actors, we love props and we love wardrobe and wardrobe fittings. But I fought and they finally let me wear the fedora. But that was kind of crucial, that moment of time. And I think it really helped hide and reveal the makeup. It was 4 hours to start. We got it down to about 3.5 hours. Again, originally it was 14 different pieces seamed together out of a mold. We got it down to, I think, at one point 11 pieces, maybe 9. Constantly being modified. Kevin Yeager's makeup was thinner, more prophylactic thin. Means I could feel everything better. Let's see. Even George Terazakis up in Vancouver did some great work on Freddy versus Jason. I love the Demon Freddy concept. And there was the Uber Freddy from Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That was fun also. So it was evolving makeup, and the claw evolved too. But it was not the makeup per se, it's the length of the run. So when you're 4 or 5 weeks into a shoot, and you're driving to that off-ramp in Santa Clarita or Venice, California, or Pasadena or Glendale or wherever you're shooting, and you get to that off-ramp where the sound stage is, it's like a dog going to the vet, you're going to get that shot. You don't want it, and you really do. You start to perspire a little bit, and it's 5 in the morning, and you're going to have to face that cold colostomy bag glue, the medical adhesive, over skin that's already been in makeup for 5 weeks. The only time it ever really hurt, I did the the underwater makeup for Freddy versus Jason. And they were worried about me leaking like a water balloon. And so they double glued me. And this is the first week of shooting, and because I can hold my breath longer than the stuntmen, because I'm an old surfer, I did all the underwater stuff and I did all the water stuff. That's me coming out of the lake and everything, Jason's Crystal Lake. And I couldn't get that makeup off after a day. We couldn't get it off. So they scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed. They tried everything. And I was raw. Well, I had to shoot 3 days in the regular Freddy makeup after that. It was putting cold colostomy bag medical adhesive on top of, my raw skin. But then I had 10 days off and I ran away to a resort on Vancouver Island. Did a little surfing, saltwater fixed me. But that's the only real problem I've ever had with the makeup. I like to whine about it and complain. So my boss here, gives me a little extra lunch hour. But I, after knowing people, after talking, to the late great John Hurt about, Elephant Man, and I've heard stories from Tim Curry about Legend, and I got drunk in a pub in London with one of the orcs from The Hobbit, and Lord of the Rings, and he was telling me, he was the general orc, and he was telling me that if they needed you by 9 a.m., it was a 2 a.m. call. So you just go out with Viggo Morgenstern and drink all night, and then, go right into the makeup chair.
All right, I'm going to ask one more question of everybody here before I open it up for audience questions. Does anybody have any upcoming projects that they can talk about?
Well, yes. So Constantine, City of Demons, the animation, the first 5 episodes is now online on the CW Seed. And I believe that the next 7 episodes will be dropping in the fall. And I'm just about to shoot off to Vancouver to start filming the season 4 of Legends of Tomorrow.
I'm working with a great actor now, Alexander Aja. Director. Was approved by Wes Craven over many young directors to do the remake of The Hills Have Eyes. Recently did a great film that didn't do well, but has one of the best casts I've seen in years, called Horns, starring Daniel Radcliffe. Just an amazing cast. Next to the place in the Beyond the Woods, it's one of the best new casts I've seen in years. And he's working right now with Sam Raimi in Belgrade, Serbia. But Alexander and I just finished a new project. We're doing narrative virtual reality, short story, urban legends, ghost stories called, campfire tales. It's the stories around a campfire. And every episode begins and it looks like a flaming meteorite is coming at you. But as the meteorite pulls back, you realize it's a flaming marshmallow. And the kids at the campfire begin to tell the story. It's real tricky work. VR's very complicated. There's a great sequence in Ready Player One that's VR. We don't think audiences can really sit still for it more than about 8 minutes, at the most, 10 minutes. It's different than a game. Gaming is probably going to be the way to really exploit VR, but this is a new world, a whole new world of narrative storytelling in a VR world. We're going to start figuring out how to do audience participation with it without making it a game, still keeping it just as an option, as a choice. And then I've just finished doing a new Goldilocks version for Adult Swim, a new Goldilocks and the Three Bears for Adult Swim, which is fun. And I have a movie out right now, a couple of movies on demand. One is called Night World, and the other one is with the great Lynn Shay from Nightmare on Elm Street, Bob Shay's sister from Insidious, and she and I have a terrific film we did up in Winnipeg, Canada, that's out right now and on demand. So look for that. Yeah, now I'm drawing. It's it's the game children shouldn't play. Midnight Man. Midnight Man. It's the game you shouldn't play if you're a child. It involves salt, and it involves a bloody thumbprint on the outside of the house. Enough said.
And with all the VR hype here,
What's Sara got coming up?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I just finished a film with Helen Bonham Carter and Hilary Swank. And Billy August, famous Billy August. Danish director, directed it, and it's a female relationship drama, but it takes on issues of mental health. And so it's wonderful. We had a test, and it came out 97% very good to excellent. They said they've never seen scores like that. So when it comes out, I think unfortunately it's just the times it's going to come out day and day, VOD at the same time. But please look for it. It's quite wonderful. You laugh and cry, which I think is the best thing that can happen in any movie. And these are wonderful women, and they do amazing work.
Two of my favorite actors.
Yeah, yeah. They work so well together. They loved each other.
Hillary's just shredding it now on the Trust, on FX, the sort of
Oh,
cult
right.
version of
Right. Have you seen it?
Yeah, and with all the VR hype, you know, with everybody's projects coming up, and the huge showcase that they have on the floor, you guys need to all go take a look at what's the future of the entertainment industry.
I tried it last night. It was fantastic.
The Star Trek one in there, yeah.
You can revisit plot. In other words, the second or third time you do a VR experience that's narrative, you can revisit the plot. You can look for clues and mysteries that you didn't pick up on the first time. You can go behind an actor who's got a gun stuck down the back of his slacks and watch him unhook the safety on it. You can see when he did that, when he was setting people up to kill them at the end of a sort of, Reservoir Dogs scene. And you can go down, we want to put in optional rooms so that you can follow one specific character for the duration of an 8, 10, 12, 20-minute VR. You can just pick a character. One character might be R-rated. It might be an R-rated version, whereas another character might be more G-rated, and you follow them through the plot.
Almost like a choose your own adventure. All right, we're going to open up to audience questions. I'm going to come on out there with the mic so everybody can hear the question. So just go ahead and raise your hands if you have any questions. Or claws.
Robert, you mentioned that the glove weighed you down, that's how you make your stance. But didn't you base it off of a famous actor?
No, I was influenced. I had seen recently the great Klaus Kinski Nosferatu with Isabella Gianni, and there was a way that Klaus thrust his neck forward that I borrowed, and I did it because he was bald in that film, and I knew Freddy would be bald in some scenes, and he also hinged his claw hand a little bit effeminately. But I knew with the Freddy claw, that wouldn't be seen as a weakness. It would be kind of just strange and different. And I could get the claw up into the frame more for my single shots. So I borrowed from Klaus Kinski. I also borrowed a little bit of asymmetrical posture from the great choreographer, Bob Fosse. I discovered something years ago. I caught a late night on TV, the old movie he did of The Little Prince, and Bob Fosse plays the serpent in that. And you realize that young Michael Jackson must have seen that film, and obviously he would have. He loves dancing, he loved choreographers, he would watch Soul Train and call Fred Astaire on the phone. But obviously Michael Jackson had seen The Little Prince in the 70s as a child, because you see Bob Fosse doing all of Michael Jackson's choreography in that movie before Michael Jackson ever did it. And I've always loved Fosse. And when I had the glove on, which is big, and it's just on one side of me, and it throws the body off asymmetrically, so I embraced that. And I borrowed a little bit of Fosse posturing. A little bit from Jimmy Cagney, too. Displayed legs, shoulders back, chin up, a little bit of that attack mode that Cagney, another dancer, by the way. Those are the three sources, the actors that influenced Freddy.
Hi, I'm a new fan of Constantine, and I'm really curious, and I love your work with the character. I'm curious if there's any times in your normal everyday life where you think, hey, this is something Constantine would do, or how would he react in this kind of situation? Would this be something that he would do? Or, I'm curious if you ever have moments where you tie the character to your person.
yourself to it, or just projecting him into the situations that you're in to see at what angle he would come at it from, and that's always an interesting thing that I find with every character that I do. But when you're working with him, he's always in your head and stuff. But I don't kind of like let it kind of cross over into my personal life. But I'll always be angling for something to find more about the character through the situations that I go through in my life. Yeah.
Hello, Robert. I'm Paul. I love you. But I have such an affinity for New.
Nice sweater, dude.
Thank you. I have such an affinity for the movie Nightmares, in which Sara had her breakout role, and I love how it was an homage to the original Nightmare on Elm Street. As I got older, I thought how terrifying it would have been with the original movie Freddy crossing over into the real world versus the Uber Super Freddy. Like, what was your thoughts on that, and how did you play the characters differently?
You have to understand, Freddy's not in an alley smoking a cigarette, ready to violate you, or kill you, or rape you, or hurt you. Freddy only exists in the imagination of those children and relatives and family of the people that originally did him wrong. They've heard about it. They've heard about him whispered at a slumber party. They've heard about it in the locker room, in the girls' gym. You know, they've heard, and all they know is that he has a red and green striped sweater, a hat, and he's been burned, and he has this claw thing on. That's all you know. In a perfect world, if somebody gave me $50 million to direct a Nightmare on Elm Street film, and let's say I had 3 potential victims, I would have each of them imagine a different Freddy. Perhaps one Freddy would be in a red and green striped cardigan sweater with buttons on it. Perhaps another Freddy would be wearing an old frayed baseball hat. Another Freddy would be tall, very tall. One Freddy could be short and wiry, like yours truly. One Freddy could be heavy. One Freddy could be very emaciated. Perhaps half of his face is burned, not all of it. And I would play with that because it's their imagination that's conjuring Freddy. So it's how they imagine Freddy. Freddy is the evil essence that's residing somewhere in purgatory. My theory's always been that Freddy never quite made it to hell because he was wronged terribly too by the vigilante parents. So he's sort of operating out of some purgatory somewhere until he finally winds up in hell. And he's able to kind of haunt the people that talk about him and discuss him and imagine him. So I've always played Freddy slightly exaggerated, as if he was something imagined, not something having a cigarette in the alley. Something that's truly imagined by whoever the potential victim is.
Hey, Robert, 'cause I'm a big fan of, all 8 of the movies you're in. I know the last one you did was the Freddy versus Jason. I know there was a rumor that there was going to be a Freddy versus Jason versus Ash versus Michael.
Yeah, well, this is a thing that happens, and Sara can tell you about this, and so can Matt. This happens with people. Mistakes are made in Hollywood. Money's left on the table. Freddy versus Jason was absolutely phenomenally successful, both domestically and internationally, and continues to be a huge, huge success. And every time there's a new format, it comes out. I mean, you put a 12-year-old boy from 2018 in a man cave with a 50-inch flat screen, and you put on the Blu-ray digitally remastered Freddy versus Jason. It looks as good as any movie made today. It's that good. And we were supposed to do Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, and I mentioned that my most recent director, Alexander Aja, is working with Sam Raimi now. Sam was brought in. Sam was the king of Hollywood then. And Bob Shea brought Sam in because he'd just done Spider-Man and Bruce Campbell. And there was some serious talk about Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. But Sam was probably equal to Bob Shea at that time because of the success of Spider-Man. And Sam was very stubborn. He wanted Bruce Campbell to win. And Bob thought, no, we can't have Freddy die 2 movies in a row. This is how Bob Shea thinks. Yeah, I can't have Freddy die 2. I felt like saying, if I'd have been in the room, if I'd have been a fly in the wall, I'd have said, Bob, you resurrected me with dog pee. You know, you resurrected Freddy with dog urine. You can figure out a way to keep the franchise alive. But I had this vision of the poster, and it was Bruce Campbell with his shirt off, with a wind machine on him, and he had, you know, he had his 50-year-old abs all freshly done, you know, with makeup and, you know, like the 300, you know, that airbrush makeup on his abs, and he had Jason in a headlock in this hand, and he had in this arm Freddy in a headlock, and he would say, Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, keeping the world safe from sequels.
You had mentioned doing the motion animation, the capture animation. Have you ever thought about, or has anybody talked about you doing that, reprising the role of Freddy in one of those, so you can get your mannerisms and your voice?
I'd have to take Viagra and wear Spanx to play Freddy again. And there's a really good animated Freddy out there already, you know. But I would love to come cameo. I'd like to play with the gender a little bit. Maybe I would be the disbelieving psychologist in Dream Warriors who's, collective nightmares. That can't happen. That's impossible. And I think there would be a double irony in doing parts like that. And I find myself now, because of my white hair and my white beard, I came out of the makeup after the last Nightmare on Elm Street, and I'd aged. And I started to look a little bit like a middle-aged George C. Scott, Vincent Price. And so I went right into playing, you know, mad scientists and doctors and evil stepfathers and the old poacher and the psychologist and stuff. So I do a lot of those roles now. And I think it would be fun to come back and cameo as something like that, either in a game or in a remake. That might be fun. And I think it would be a nice little, it's a historic choice that's done, stunt casting, cameo casting, in the horror genre and the science fiction genre anyway. And I think it would be a nice, you know, kind of Valentine for the fans.
Yeah, so I was wondering, what's the hardest part about playing Constantine and Freddy?
Well, you know, the role is such an iconic part, you know, and he's been around since 1985 when he was first introduced to an episode of Swamp Thing. So I think when I first took on the role, there was that feeling of, oh my God, there's all of those die-hard Hellblazer fans out there that know this character so much better than me, and you know, I want to do it justice. But then at the same time, you know, you have to come at it from your own angle as well. You know, and at all points I was trying to be as true as possible to the DNA of the character of the comic books, but then, you know, also bring some of myself to it as well. But and there's a part of you that feels that pressure, but there's another part of you that has to let it go so that you can free yourself up to be able to lose yourself in the character and do the best role possible, really. So I would say that is kind of one of the most difficult things. And also, you know, the character is a renowned chain smoker, so getting him to smoke on network television was quite a difficult thing, but we got there in the end.
If you watch network TV, you'll notice at 9:45 at night, people can smoke. But you can't smoke before that. You can't smoke during prime time. They're crazy. The only hard thing about Freddy for me was when I would do other projects, and then they would ramp up a Freddy movie. I remember it was really rough for me for 5, getting ready for 5, and you and Bob sent me to meet Steven at a Thai restaurant in Culver City, and I was exhausted. I'd just done a television series with Mariska Hargitay for like a year. You know, our television is a hard job, man. You have no life. You make good money, but you can't spend it. You know, you're just working. And I went right into part 5, and I was exhausted. And Stephen Hopkins, first of all, he looks like a movie star. He's like the handsomest man in the world, and he's dating Vogue models. He's doing Shameless now, another great show. And Stephen even sat there with me, and he kind of activated the fanboy in me. He would doodle on these Thai iced tea stained napkins. He would storyboard for me, and I sat there, and he was showing me this sort of M.C. Escher-esque concept that he had, and of course he draws so well. He had me in the palm of his hand by the time the pad thai got put down in front of me. But yeah, I was pretty beat, and on part 4, I had just finished another movie, and I came into part 4 right off another feature, and I was about 2 weeks into the shooting. We were doing the junkyard, way out deep in the valley where the tule fog and the coal comes from Santa Clarita and from England in the winter. And I was there with my cup of soup, and I was wrapped in an Indian blanket, and from the prop trailer. And Rennie Harlan, the great director, had the first playback I'd ever witnessed before in a movie. This is part 4. And he had rough cut the junkyard sequence together. Himself. Not the editor, he'd done it, bootlegged it. But he realized that his star was going down, that I was not 100%. And fortunately, I hadn't had any big scenes then. I just had to pose around in the beam of a possessed car, the headlights of a head. But that's about all I had to do. But it was cold and miserable and damp, and I watched that rough cut at 3 in the morning with my little cup of noodles in my hand, keeping me warm, and I got my second wind. And Rennie was smart enough to do that. But those are the only 2 times I was ever really tired of Freddy.
All right, we have time for one more question. We're going to get right here.
Hi, Robert. What was it like to work with Nathan Basel when you did Behind the Mask?
Well, I'm very proud of it. Thanks for bringing that movie up. I do a lot of horror movies, and most of them are low budget, and occasionally one of them's really great, and I'm very proud of it. You never set out to make a bad movie, but sometimes there's not enough money. Sometimes the director's not up to par. Sometimes it just doesn't work. Something happens. It doesn't edit together well. And Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon is one of the most sophisticated, great, deconstructed horror movies in the last 15 years, and it has just a phenomenal cast. Terrific actors are in it. Scott Wilson from Walking Dead, nominated for an Oscar for In Cold Blood. Just terrific actors. Zelda Rubinstein from Poltergeist. And I saw Nathan Basel, the star. I saw him off Broadway, and I'd heard about him. The Jungle Drums in New York were all about this kid from Juilliard, Nathan Basel. And I saw him do this off-Broadway play where he played a male groupie of Kurt Cobain. And he'd gone to a Courtney Love-like ex-wife, and he was looking for the lost tapes of Kurt Cobain, kind of flirting with her. And it was this brilliant performance. So I knew they had this great kid for the lead. And then Nathan also was on a great TV show that was prematurely canceled, like you, which is just heartbreaking. Like Constantine, this show was terrific. It was called Invasion, starring, Nathan and William Fickley. I'm forgetting his name right now. Great show about aliens that landed in a swamp down in Louisiana. They crashed their ship, and their ship was underneath the swamp water, and the very nature of the swamp water being at a certain fecund temperature and warm, and all of the humidity and everything kept the aliens alive in their crashed ship. And anybody that got near that water was infected by them. Terrific show, ahead of its time. It's about 5 years ago, ABC Network TV. The fans didn't support it. It should still be on, just like Constantine. Of course, one of the problems now is I think there's just so much product that it's hard to find a really great product first. Sometimes you waste your time watching stuff that's overhyped, it's a little disappointing, and you don't discover the real gold out there. Black Mirror. Got to discover the real gold, Black Mirror. That was just one of those problems. But Nathan is a terrific actor. Really good, and I just hope he keeps busy. And I think there's a great sequel script being shopped around for Behind the Mask. So we'll hope that gets gets made.
All right, before we call it into this, I'd like to once again thank all the sponsors, Agua Caliente, Cultural Center, and I'll leave it with this. Do you guys have anything you would like to say to the group?
Well, first I want to say the thing that I'm most proud of in all the Nightmare films is we had no money. And there was really no ideas, visual effects. We had to do everything in camera. And it was so innovative. I mean, the people, everybody had an idea, everybody was part of the decision making. They'd come up with that room, they'd turn around, they'd come up with all the ideas. So it was just a great group to work with, and that's where I think some of the best movies are made, when you have to innovate.
But New Line did something else that I really, in hindsight, I respect so much. Everybody that came up with these ideas and everybody that worked hard on these low-budget movies in the early days, New Line invited them all back, because by the end, by the time I did part 6, there was like a gopher from part 1 who'd already become assistant camera.
Right. So everybody moved up, and they're all still in the business and doing great. So I have this wonderful book that was based on, there was a disc on the making of Nightmare, so called Never Sleep Again. And I had a couple of them, and I haven't opened this one. And I thought I'd love to give it to someone, but I don't know how to do that. Maybe I could auction it or something. Like, is there anyone who wants to give me $100 for this? I'll start at 50. No one wants this book. 50? Is that it?
This is the book that Heather Langenkamp spent years of her life working on.
He's got, it's his birthday! 70, I got 70. So we're up to what?
What are we up, 70, 75?
I'll give you a hug! Oh, it's 80. 75.
Who is 75? Right there. 80 in the back.
There's a picture of Johnny Depp in it, and he's had a couple of beers, and it's midnight, and I've torn my makeup off and thrown it on the floor. It's a Polaroid. It's in this book, and Johnny has reconstructed my makeup, and he put it on, and he's wearing his Letterman jacket from Nightmare 1.
We have 100 over here. We have 100. What do you go on? 110? 110? Higher? 120? 120? Anybody higher than 120? 130? Want to go higher? 140? Let's keep it going. Come on. 140? 145? 150. Here we go. 150. Gonna go. 160. 160. No, we're gonna leave it. Going once. Going twice. Oh, 175. Autographed. 175. Anybody? 180. Oh, here we go. 180. Let's keep it going, guys. 180. Anybody interested? 180 going once.
Will be signed.
Will be signed. 180 going once. Going twice. 185. All right. We're gonna keep the bidding going. You want to go any higher? 190. We got 190. Got 190. Going once. 200. All right. Autographed book here. Come on, guys. 200. Going once. 210. 210. We're gonna keep this thing going. Here we go. 250. 215.
I've been to cons where fans ask me how they can get this book, because it was limited edition.
215. You want to go higher than 215? 220? 220? 225. We're going to keep this going. 225. 230? 230? 230? Back to you, sir. 230? 250. Oh, big money. Let's do this. No, we're done. All right, 250. Going once. Going twice. Gentlemen, you just won yourself a book.